Hi, everybody. Time for a quick look inside Vancouver Public Schools. I'm Nick Vole. Today, the district issued a letter to parents about graduation, trying to answer some of the biggest questions out there. And while we don't have all the answers just yet, we are making progress. Check your email inbox soon for the letter, which will look something like this, or go to the district website, vansd.org. We wanted to hear from some of the district personnel who are working on these graduation issues. And joining me now are Jim Gray, the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning for the district, and Val Seeley, the Principal of Hudson's Bay High School. Guys, thanks for taking the time.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so let's start with Val. I'm curious what the day-to-day work of a principal looks like in this sort of new teaching and learning environment.
It's a lot of seat time looking at your computer, looking at your phone. I know a lot of us, some are working remotely from home. Some of us come in and out during the day, but basically instead of being out in the halls talking with kids, we have a computer screen set in front of us and we're either talking with teachers, talking with students, or on the phone talking with parents. So it's just a lot of you're in alone in a room, kind of just reaching out to people as best you can.
One of the biggest issues has been high school graduations. A lot of anxiety out there from folks about how is this going to work with my senior? How have graduations changed with this remote learning situation?
Yeah. So first of all, there's so many things: graduation, prom, spring sports, all the concerts, plays, all those different things that are those rites of passage, those transitions to the next step in life that ultimately are going to be impacted. I know that as we prepare learning lessons and experiences for kids, there's also a parallel universe in which we're really trying to develop solutions so kids can experience those things. And most of them are with their classmates, right? So, we're trying to do our best to either, specifically around graduation, do something where kids can have that physical experience of walking across the stage and getting their diploma. That is our absolute first choice. Right. And then as we get closer and closer to the point where that can't happen, what are the alternatives? Can it be virtual? Can we move it to late summer? Those types of things. But we're absolutely committed to ensuring that kids can experience those transitions and those rites of passage in the best way possible.
And a lot of that's going to come from the state, obviously. OSPI right. And Governor Inslee will make a lot of those decisions, I think, for us probably.
Yeah, and what's interesting is May 4th is kind of that, the I suppose potentially new guidance will come out, and as you develop plans and you're trying to communicate proactively with the public, you also don't know what's happening after that. If we knew what was happening after that, we would definitely have plans in place, right? So you just try to do the best you can and have different, plan A, plan B, plan C. I know that principals, and I imagine Val might talk to this, are going to be communicating with their senior classes starting next week too.
Yeah. And I truly think the hardest part is just the not knowing. I mean, we don't want to make a quick decision and do a plan if everything loosens up. I know that all of us are hoping, fingers crossed, that things change so we really can go back to normal sometime in June, or at least have that ceremony. Because we know how important it is to our seniors and their families. So, it's hard to keep telling the seniors, just hang tight. We'll let you know as soon as we know. But we just don't want to jump the gun and do something that we can go back and change later. So it's just our poor seniors and their families, they're just like, what's going on? Am I going to get a graduation? Am I going to get a prom? And we just kind of say, we don't know. We're sorry. Because, like you guys just mentioned, it really is up to what the state decides is best. And then once we know that, we're going to do our best, like Jim said, to do whatever we can to make this a special year for our seniors, given the current situation.
Sure. And academically, we do know from the state that grades will not get worse as a result of this. That's something that's been pushed from the state. So how are grades working then? If they can't get worse, what's happening instead?
So ultimately, a student, when we shut down March 13th, that would be the point at which a student really shouldn't be detrimentally impacted by the closure, right? So what does that look like? The starting point is that if there's 23,000 students in Vancouver Public Schools, there's 23,000 different individual stories that and lives and experience that these kids are going through, where a kid who had an A when we went out is very engaged. They're able to have Wi-Fi, all the way down to a kid who potentially wasn't passing a class, can't engage because of Wi-Fi, or even intentionally doesn't engage, right? All those different scenarios are playing out right now. And what you can't afford to do is allow any student to be detrimentally impacted by the closure, right? But we also cannot look into every single story and make a judgment on whether or not that was an intentional disengagement or intentional disengagement. So the best course, according to the governor's office and OSPI, is that no student their grade will go down after that point.
Sure. Val, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Yeah, it's been a lot of processing and talking with the teachers, but kind of like Jim said, that we get it. I mean, even as adults, this is a whole new world for us and we're struggling. So what we've really just been focusing on is really making sure that our students have access. They know how to get a hold of every teacher. Students that we haven't heard from, counselors and administrators and advocates are reaching out. Our goal is to make sure kids know that we are here to serve them and help them if they want to be helped or served. If they need something else, they need to communicate to us, because there's not going to be any harm done. Like Jim said, we can only help you and improve, and that's what our focus is, and just really making sure that we know every student has access, has been reached out to, they're doing okay, they don't need anything.
Sure. So those students who are seniors, they want to know, am I going to graduate? How are they going to find out if they're on track to graduate? And if they're not, if they're in danger of not graduating, how can they make up credits to get where they need to be to virtually or in real life walk across the stage in June?
What I would tell you is at Hudson's Bay, they know, because we've been talking to them since October. So they know, and trust me, they've been, oh my gosh, what do I do now? This is really hard. So basically, the counselors and I are meeting regularly. We got to get this forecasting tucked away a little bit because we also have to plan for next year. But we are reaching out to every single one of our seniors if they haven't already reached out to us. Students have access to credit recovery. They have since March 13th. Students, teachers, that kind of week we came back after spring break, teachers are reaching out saying, hey, how about you work on this for a little bit until we know what we're doing? So a lot of students have been able to kind of build their grade back up if it was a failing grade. As we get more information on the state emergency waivers, things like that, we'll start to, as we talk with students and meet with their parents, and we'll figure out plans for individuals. But as long as a student puts in the effort and communicates with us, we'll get them that diploma, we'll get them across the finish line. I think some of them, we just have to make that intentional effort if we don't hear from them. But my counselors have been, their phones have been blown up from those seniors, which is a good thing. We want them reaching out and advocating.
Yeah, and I think what Val represents really the epitome of what all the high school principals embody, right? The absolute commitment to do whatever it takes to get kids across the line. I've been super impressed as we meet almost daily as high school principals to talk about these issues, right? The things that we have to reinvent, how do we do fines and fees, right? Those types of simple questions become pretty important right now. But what's coming from the high school principals is not just between the principals and the counselors, but how teachers are willing to do whatever it takes to help kids too. The lengths that they'll go to reach out to kids, not just to teach them, not just to provide, state standards to them, but like, what do you need right now? Where can I go to the library and social distance and help teach you math, right? Like, there's so many stories out there. So, I think what Val's talking about is really the epitome of what's happening in Vancouver Public Schools, all the way from administration, all the way down to counselors and teachers and paraprofessionals and kitchen staff and things like that.
Wow. So for those seniors then who are looking at college next year, what do we know so far? I mean, ACTs, SAT testing. Also, I know state of Washington universities have adjusted some of their intake procedures. What have you guys heard? And what can you tell students who are looking or who are nervous about what's going to happen next fall?
So we know that Washington colleges and university are really making some adjustments so that, for instance, credit, no credit doesn't impact their grades, right? Their admission process. The question would be is once you get outside of Washington's border, right? We live very close to Oregon. Is it the same there? And I would imagine that other states are doing a lot of the same things, right? Some of the ramifications. What about scholarship monies? Right? What about trade schools? What are those groups doing too? What I have found is the different organizations, whether it's International Baccalaureate, Advanced Placement, SAT, ACT, those organizations, what I would tell seniors is go to those organizations' websites. They'll give you the most up-to-date information and what their protocols are. Universities themselves are putting out tons of information. For instance, my daughter and son are both in college, both VPS graduates, and their schools are putting out a ton of information right now too.
Okay. We touched real quickly on proms and graduation ceremonies, things that these rites of passage that students have. We know there are plans to kind of figure that out. One common question we've been getting a lot are yearbooks. Val, is there going to be a Hudson's Bay yearbook this year?
Oh yeah. I think the hardest part is just getting the word out there. So like most of the principals have already done this to schools, but what we've done is we've just sent out some communication. Here's how you can still order your yearbook. I think the message we're sending those, we're just not sure we're going to be able to deliver them. And right now, a lot of the yearbook companies are shut down for right now, but they do have a plan to, once they get started, complete these. And then as soon as we get them back here, we will get them out to students again, following the rules that are given. But yeah, I think the biggest part that high schools are trying to do now is we're still going to have one, keep ordering them, and we'll keep you posted on those dates as we get them, as we work with these companies.
And then one common question we've been getting a lot of is the Friday Night Light event that is happening a lot of places across the country tonight, turning on stadium lights to honor seniors. Vancouver Public Schools has elected not to participate right now in that event. Jim, could you talk a little bit about why that decision was made and maybe what the plan might be down the line?
Yeah, I mean, what a great opportunity to honor really the spring athletes or spring participants. The issue is not the event itself. The issue is the potential unintended consequences of people gathering at those places. There are some schools that have done it pretty independently and pretty much without fanfare, and it's gone off without a hitch. We've also seen areas where people who want to be together, right, have congregated at these places in violation not only of the governor's orders, but also putting themselves at risk health-wise for the sake of a good cause, right? A great atmosphere to honor spring sports. We have a responsibility in Vancouver Public Schools to not put our families in harm's way. So I can imagine a scenario in which we went forward with this because there's a lot of promotion behind it. The amazing community around Columbia River High School, it's not just going to be people driving by. There are families that are going to walk to that stadium. There's so much history there. So they're going to want to congregate. If we know that, how can we put our families at risk? Now, after May 4th, if the guidance from the state changes, we will absolutely move forward. We are absolutely committed to honoring not just the athletes, but all of our seniors and all of our kids. But it's just not the right time. We need to have a little bit more freer guidelines to be able to congregate and move forward from there.
Okay, thanks. Have I missed anything? We've had a nice long chat here, but is there anything that parents and families, kids need to know before I let you folks go?
Here's what I would tell you that, this is kind of twofold because from a personal experience, when I came into the role of an executive director after having been a principal, my life was surrounded for most of my career with kids. And when you don't have those kids around you, right, you miss them. And I think what's happening across really not just VPS, but across the entire educational system is we know kids miss school, right? But we miss kids so much. It's just amazing that how much of our lives is really surrounds kids, right? I mean, everybody comes to work every day. They spend more time with you than sometimes your own family, right? And we love them and we miss them and we want to be with them.
Val, anything that you
Yeah,
have?
I would say, I think what I've been encouraged by in my staff and pretty much probably all of us is just the parent outreach coming in, just to continue to reach out to us when you have questions, when you're not sure. We are doing the best that we can to send out the information and make it clear. But sometimes you're reading something, you're like, what? So, we principals, we teachers, so we are here to answer questions for students and staff because we understand this is a really confusing, sometimes scary. So just know that we are here, whether we're on the phone with you or via computer, that we just encourage parents to continue to reach out to us to let us know what their concerns are or what their questions are. We're going to do the best. And, and I've had a lot of good conversations and heard a lot of good stories from parents working hard at home with their kids. So I enjoy that contact and I just hope it continues.
Well, guys, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. Keep up the good work. I know people are seeing what you're doing and appreciating it. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Nick.
Again, that letter is on its way to family email soon, and a version is already posted on the district website, vansd.org. It covers some of the topics we didn't get into in today's discussion, so it's worth your time to take a look, and don't hesitate to reach out with questions. And I wanted to end today's quick look with something cool, so check this out. Carla Feltz, the district's outreach coordinator, posted this on Twitter. 2 anonymous donors purchased $2,000 worth of books from Dickens Books on Main Street to be given to VPS students. What an incredible gesture to help not only kids, but a local small business too. Thank you to those anonymous donors. And thank you for joining us for this quick look. Until next time, I'm Nick Vole. Have a great weekend.